I'm delighted to have as my guest today Sean Simpson, who is the division CEO for Synovus in Central and Southern Florida. I've known Sean for a number of years. When I first met Sean, he was the business banking executive for Synovus, which was part of the retail bank at the time. And one of the things that I remember, Sean, that was being pretty critical was encouraging people to look broadly at the needs of small business owners at that time, which is now as the CEO, I'm sure you're looking at that, but you're also looking at the needs of the commercial clients who are part of the Synovus organization. And so I'm interested in getting sort of the high level view about why it's important at this stage for bankers, whether they're in the commercial bank or whether they're business bankers or branch managers, to talk to their business owner clients about their future plans for their business and their estate planning. Could you give us a perspective on it?
Sure, absolutely, Ned. First of all, it's always a pleasure to talk to you and discuss. Certainly, a topic like this is great. It's the importance really of wealth management embedded and the personal side embedded in both the commercial and business banking platform. We're in the value creation business, so it's important that we're providing our clients with exceptional advice and service. Not only provide guidance for their commercial enterprise, but also for their personal lives as well. In fact, quite frankly, most of our clients view their business and personal financial needs and goals as interrelated. So we're really doing a disservice if we're not addressing their whole financial selves, if you will. Further, we're at a unique time in our country where a vast majority of our entrepreneurs are baby boomers and will be transitioning their businesses in the next 5 to 10 years. The U.S. Census Bureau recently estimated of the roughly 600,000 privately owned organizations with 100 million and less in revenue, that 70% were actually owned by baby boomers. In addition, many of our clients aren't prepared or have a transition plan in place. Another study recently estimated that almost 50% of middle market clients and over 75% of small businesses do not have a succession plan in place. So having these deeper conversations with our clients will help them prepare and develop a plan. And then, of course, lastly, as you mentioned, why it's important to the bank as well as the bank and bankers can benefit by providing their clients deeper insights into managing their entire financial plan, not simply just one segment of it. And by doing so, the bank can deepen the relationship. They can increase retention. We can generate additional revenue streams. And I really believe it also differentiates the bank as a full financial provider that really seeks to advise the client at a deeper level versus being traditionally more siloed in their approach.
Yeah, the silos have been something that have been a concern of a lot of senior managers across the country. I talked to bank CEOs and heads of commercial banking, and a lot of times, while they understand the demographic changes, they understand the opportunities that are part and parcel of this changing landscape, it's been difficult for some organizations to break down the silos. It's been difficult for bankers to start having these kind of conversations with their business owner clients. Why do you think that is? What are some of the impediments or the obstacles that make it difficult?
Well, first off, when you talk about silos, I mean, it's very easy to do. A line of business leaders are directed to build great strategy and make targets. And so you're challenged with that, making sure that all lines of business and all segments, if you will, are aligned and understand one another's strategies so that we effectively go to market as a unit and not within silos. But it's a challenge. It's something that, whether it's banking or another industry, continually is up against. To your question, why is it sometimes difficult? Well, I really believe it's a lack of understanding and comfort of the banker is breaching into that personal side of the balance sheet is difficult for them as commercial bankers. Everything they've ever been taught, all they review from a risk management aspect and where they've historically spent all their time is really on the enterprise. So delving into areas outside of that are uncomfortable. And no banker wants to open up a channel they're not as comfortable with at a risk to lose credibility with the client. In the past, They may have viewed the opportunity as a risk and nothing for them to gain by venturing down the path. But by not doing so, I believe we really do our clients a disservice. I'd also add that a commercial banker with a strong wealth management team and offering has a leg up on competitor wealth management firms. We understand things like the complexity of an owner's business, how that translates financially to the owner of the business, how and when money moves between them, when there's likely going to be a liquidity event, and so forth. And so not providing wealth solutions means the owner may now have multiple providers that don't talk to one another. Further, to appropriately plan for a transition or a liquidity event, planning should start years in advance. And so if those things aren't connected and there's no notice or understanding of the client's potential challenges or events driven by their business, wealth advisor may not be aware and miss the opportunity or have to play catch up to properly structure the estate or have the appropriate plan in place.
So one of the things that I've heard in conversations with bankers over the years is it's usually after a liquidity event, and somebody will really be disappointed because their best client had been acquired by somebody else, and then there's usually somebody in the room who's trying to provide some comfort and solace and say, well, we ought to introduce them to our wealth partners, and I always sort of struggle a little bit with how to say it, and I always say, well, it's an interesting idea, but you probably should have done it 10 years ago. And, when you think about one of the challenges in some banks is that there are sort of strict lines about who qualifies as a potential candidate for the wealth group. How do you view that today, knowing that sometimes, business owners who may not qualify today, but are yet likely to have a huge windfall down the road that could make them wonderful clients, they don't get the kind of attention they probably should get at least at an early stage in their business?
That's a great question. I mean, it's a challenge that there's been over the years, and one of the first things I would say is you got to find opportunities to figure out how to make that beneficial for the team, because the reality is most business owners don't have a lot of liquidity maybe on their personal balance sheet. Maybe, they view their investment strategy as into their own business. So therefore, they're continuing to reinvest back into their own business, but they're going to have an opportunity, or a lot of them will down the road, whether it be a liquidity event, selling their business or a portion of their business, or having some sort of transitional period. And quite frankly, if you're showing up after the fact and you haven't positioned the bank in such a way that provides expertise in this area, you've already lost. Because generally speaking, what I've seen is, there's other players that are specifically trying to get in front of transitional type events, like partnering with an investment bank or maybe a private equity firm, and they're positioning themselves as experts that do this all the time. Well, so do we, and so do many banks. And we can certainly do the same thing, and shame on us, because we already have these clients, and certainly I would position us as in a better position to help guide and direct those organizations and the business owners through that process, given the history and the knowledge and the trusted partners we can put around them. So those conversations need to start much earlier. Real planning needs to start 5 years before that event ever took place, to make sure that things are in a place to help them execute that, to minimize, things like their tax strategies, their estate plans, and what have you.
So there are people, and some of them work for Synovus. There are others who have figured out that it really is about teaming with partners. There's some examples that I've run across over the years of commercial bankers and business bankers who are really good at working with their wealth partners. What would you say are some of the things that those high performers who get it do differently?
Yeah, first, Ned, I would suggest that those most successful don't view it as a referral to another line of business, right? That's what we always hear, and they really view it as a true partnership. And that sounds a little, but a referral to me is I'm passing the baton, I'm sending a referral in our in our system to a partner. I'm making a phone call, whatever. Here's their phone number. Give them a call. And that doesn't position necessarily them for success. And it doesn't, it's not a true partnership that's going to align itself to a differentiated experience. So I think the ones that are real successful, they understand the value creation it can have with their clients, and it can differentiate themselves by providing really a unique approach to guiding and advising their clients. The team can clearly provide a view as to how we can help the owner in a holistic way. They trust one another, they communicate well, and there's role clarity in the team. I was recently been on a prospect call with a commercial banker who is spearheading a potential new relationship, and this banker is bought into the process. Her positioning of the complete bank team with her wealth partner just truly felt different. It was clear they had the best interests of the business and owner at the center of everything they did, and I think that when you have that recipe for success, it sets the team up to just differently. It's not I go to this person for this thing, because if it's that, then what's the difference if they go to an outside firm for their wealth services and this firm for their commercial banking activities? But when it's positioned together, that and there's a level of deeper understanding of both the enterprise and the business owner, I think we can be that much more successful in guiding that client through their life cycle, positioning them in a more impactful way, and doing it with less disruption, whether it be to them personally or within the organization.
Yeah, and you raise an interesting point. We've been talking a lot about working with existing clients, but I think there's a huge opportunity for bankers and their partners to approach prospects with this kind of
Absolutely.
conversation, because if they're not having it with their current bank, this could be the thing that opens the door to a new relationship. And I certainly, I can appreciate how a different kind of conversation might be just the thing that'll get a new relationship off the ground.
Absolutely, Ned. I mean, I use the example. It's like the old days of putting the lender hat on. If a banker just went out and talked about loans, and there's not a need in place, they've just shut down that entire conversation for anything further. Same goes for price, or if you categorize things, it doesn't open up the level of opportunity. But I've used the example many times where if we go with the team approach, the opportunity might not be with the organization today. Maybe it's some planning vehicles that we poke their interest on the personal side, and then we have the opportunity to engage with that client and start building a relationship that hopefully will be have fruit for the whole team over long term. But it's about creating value. It's about opening up a larger conversation to really understand the complexities that we're dealing with. That really, quite frankly, in many ways, others aren't doing, because they're kind of siloed, as we mentioned earlier, within their existing level of expertise.
So one of the things as a sales leader, and I think you appreciate this, that one of the things that sales leaders do is have a huge impact in the messaging and the coaching that they give to their teams around these issues. What can a bank sales leader do to improve, say, the interaction between, say, commercial bankers and wealth partners, and arguably the commercial bankers and external parties that have to be involved in some of the things we've been talking about?
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, when we talk about wealth management, wealth services, there's typically a quarterback, and you can call that the wealth RM or whatever role but there's many other players and levels of expertise depending on the challenges that are uncovered, and some of those are external as well. But I believe there's certainly a number of ways that sales leader can play a role in helping to engage experts in wealth management, both internally and externally. And the first, I would say, Ned, is build and develop knowledge and expertise from within through ongoing training and certification. I mean, these are complex issues. We've got to continue. A CPA doesn't stop learning. An attorney doesn't stop learning. And I think we need to do the same. And for example, we recently, invested in a certification process and transitional processes for business owners that we got all our private wealth advisors certified on. So there's things like that. You can continue to find opportunities to ramp up their skill level. Secondly, I really think a sales leader can help facilitate thought leadership content by experts, both internally and externally, for the benefit of their clients. And we've, first of all, these subject matter experts can help inform and certainly educate, but also provide the platform to position the bank and its brand. And we've done this a number of ways. I mean, we've held a number of symposiums in different areas that really, aren't generating immediate revenue, but really position the bank, like I mentioned, in a position of strength and help educate and get our clients start thinking about things that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise done. Third piece is I really, really encouraging a client-centric approach by ensuring cross-functional collaboration and team meetings with the best interest of clients always at the heart of every discussion, proposal, and recommendation. As I mentioned, there are a lot of experts, both internally and externally, and sometimes those experts have, certainly a self-interest and may be guiding something towards, something they do, or versus what a partner does. But really, if we keep the client at the heart of every decision we make, and then we're going to do the right thing and guide them towards the right solutions every time. Fourth, I would say, really inviting external experts regularly to educate, discuss scenarios, solutions, and hypotheticals with the team. And we've done a lot of this, really with the effort to build the commercial team to not necessarily be experts, but have them positioned to be able to seek opportunities and find similar issues that we can further leverage our wealth team's capabilities for. An example of that might be, in insurance solutions. I'm not expecting our commercial team necessarily to be experts in insurance, as you well know, that can get quite complex. There's a million different arenas that you can utilize insurance in your planning. But I do want them to understand different scenarios that have helped other clients or in other specific areas, so that when they see those things, or a light bulb goes off, and that we're continually trying to adapt and find opportunities. And then I would say the fifth and probably most critical is building and implementing reward systems that encourage collaboration and partnering, and getting back to what you had mentioned earlier, not silos. I mean, mutual success in this field versus individual winners and losers is really what you want to try to create, to have a really successful commercial banking and wealth service platform that's really successful in guiding clients and helping the bank win in these areas.
That's a great playbook that you just laid out. When you think about, keeping the client in the center of the conversations, continuing to upgrade your skills, continuing to talk about the kinds of issues that clients may be facing, and bringing in expertise from inside and outside the organization, and importantly, putting the right kind of incentives in place. So that's a really good plan for everybody. Sean, thank you very much for spending the time talking about this. This has been a great Ned Talks.
Thank you, Ned. I enjoyed it, and hope you have a great rest of your week. Take care.